Coming up on this, the first episode of Smart Tech Today in January 2021, Matthew Cassinelli and I talk about all the devices that feature AirPlay 2, or all the new ones anyway. A very cool feature that improves accessibility for the iPhone. Ring's new Mailbox Sensor. That's right, the IoT device that we've always wanted is finally here. And a conversation about GE and its move into cameras. And somehow I relate that to a prison vault or a bank vault with Zena Warrior Princess standing in front of it. You'll understand when you watch. You gotta check out this episode of Smart Tech Today.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Welcome to 2021 and Smart Tech Today, where we explain the exciting, the dynamic, and the sometimes confusing subject that is the Internet of Things. I am one of your hosts, Mikah Sargent, and I am joined from a warm cave somewhere in Berkeley, California, by Matthew Cassinelli. Hello, Matthew.
Hello, Mikah. I'm glad to see you again, and I was going to say, I was glad to put 2020 behind us, but we're starting off on a foot. I don't know what kind of foot.
Yeah, we're starting off on a foot that stomps on Legos. Lego. Sorry, Lego. But this show is not a foot that stomps on Lego. This show is a foot that has a internet-connected device in the sole of its shoe that tells it how many steps it's taken, how many hearts it's broken, and how many lives it's changed. Welcome to Smart Tech Today.
Unfortunately, the subscription service is shutting down now. We couldn't sustain it with our users, and we're going to have all your product will be obsolete.
Not again. Another smart product is lost to the ether. Up first in Apple land, we have, I think, a very, very, very cool feature that TechCrunch reported on. Because, look, different people use different devices in different ways. And one of the concerns with accessibility in technology is that not every developer, unfortunately, takes the time to make sure that their app is very accessible to folks of all sorts of, with vision impairment, with any of these issues. And so with this new feature for iPhones, it improves upon the sort of underpinnings that are already in place from Apple's side of things to make sure that using computer vision, the screen recognition tool can go further than it ever has before to provide UI features and sort of descriptions of buttons, labels, to folks who use screen readers. So before, where they may not know what a button did because the developer did not label the button for accessibility and like screen readers and things like that, iOS has improved to make that experience better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is awesome. It's basically Apple's doing some of the work for developers so that I think that, we'll maybe get to this part, but just like it'll be interesting to see if the developers feel like they need to integrate it less because Apple's are automatically doing it. But this is more on the user side of if it hasn't been fully implemented and there's just a standard button that anybody could decipher if they were actually looking at it, this system can do it on its own for you so that tools like VoiceOver and things like that actually recognize it and don't just skip it. Because especially if you have these needs, if that stuff isn't set up, you might not even know that those features exist at all. And so accessibility stuff is hard to implement, or I don't even think it's as hard to implement. It's maybe hard as a developer to have so many things to implement, including that sometimes
it's
it doesn't
an extra
fall as high.
Step Exactly, which is, it's unfortunate that an extra step that is very important to a potential large number of users is not implemented, because, I've actually, in creating a couple of sticker packs for iOS, have gone through the process of app creation and, used Xcode. And even when I was doing that, back whenever stickers first became a thing that you could do, it was incredibly easy. Apple made it very easy to add the labels necessary to provide accessibility for folks. And I can remember, I selfishly like to feel good about things, and it was really nice. I know, right? It was really nice, though, to have people reach out and say, hey, thank you so much for adding image descriptions to these stickers so that I can use these stickers and understand what each of them mean and what they look like. And that feels good. And to me, that is enough. If it's not enough to just do it because it's the right thing to do, to feel good about doing it because it's the right thing to do should be enough. And if that's not enough, then think about the business side of things, which is to make your app available to the large number of users who are differently abled, who have the need for some of these tools.
Yeah. And exactly. That's always the best argument too. Is just it can get you way more users, and that's usually what, at least as a developer, they're concerned about the bottom line usually. It is worth noting that you would have to go in and turn this feature on. So assuming you're a VoiceOver user, in accessibility VoiceOver, there's a screen recognition feature that you can turn on. It takes 12.8 megabytes just to specify, and you can also choose if you want to do it in specific apps or not. So it might be worth using if you... Yeah, exactly. You don't have to apply it to everything, but also the image description stuff too has been really good in iOS lately. So these teams have been doing a lot, which is, Apple's always leading that way, but this is almost sidestepping the developer part to actually just give it to the users, as it's if you can implement a system wide, might as well do that on top. So this is a good win.
One just hopes that it does not, because I don't like saying that phrase. I was going to say at the end of the day, but I hear people say that too much, and so I'm trying to eliminate it from my vocabulary. What one hopes for is that developers are still encouraged to implement the proper accessibility tools, because you're looking at the difference between machine learning and computer vision versus what you intended a thing to be. And so your best bet is to just do the actual work and use this as a fallback while you're waiting on getting your app up to standards with accessibility. This tool can be there. And for the apps that just simply aren't updated, and for developers who aren't doing it, it's great that this is there. But if you are a developer and you watch this show and you do make an app, your best bet is still to do the right thing and create these necessary labels and things like that.
Agreed.
All right. I have turned a feature on with my TCL television, AirPlay 2 and HomeKit. And basically what it lets me do is turn on and let's see, actually, I know it certainly can let me turn on and off my television in the Home app for iOS. I'm going to tap
you do
on
the
it just to make
inputs?
sure.
Like
Let's see.
HDMI 1 and...
Yes. So it lets me turn on and off the television and then switch between the different inputs, which I have an Apple TV connected to it. My partner has an Xbox connected to it. There's a Chromecast connected to it, and then the home screen itself. And so I have those tools to turn it on. And then there's even a button in here that shows that says view TV settings. So I can even go in and it will launch the settings on the television itself so that I can make adjustments there. But then it also is it's AirPlay enabled so that from any of my devices, I can start to play audio or video to my television, even if I didn't have an Apple TV connected to it. I do, so I use that instead, but I can just play it directly to the TV. Well, LG is rolling this out to its 2018 smart televisions. And so that functionality is going to be available to them soon, giving you the ability to essentially use AirPlay for audio and video streaming and control, in some cases, of both power and volume from the Home app. Mm-hmm. Mine doesn't have volume control because I don't know why, to be honest. But for some reason, it doesn't have volume control, but it does have control of the other of inputs and the power on and power off.
I wonder if it could depend. Yeah, for me, it's HDMI CEC with my receiver that does that. So I wonder if there was like a specific input maybe, but that still isn't really the right solution. I got to try this with a home bridge setup because I'm pretty sure you can do that with the TV. And I just haven't, since I haven't had it, I haven't tried to set up a shortcut that changes the inputs because that would be nice. I have a whole overwrought, I call the IP address of my TV and change the inputs that way. Like I don't remember. It was like one day I was just like, I wonder if I could do this, and looked it up, and Sony had a whole API, and it was complicated, but in a few hours I had it, and then I think I didn't write it up, and so I like barely remember how it works now.
Oh no.
But it does work,
writing.
So that's great.
I'm glad that it works for you. Yeah, because I mean, now that I have that in mind, I could create a shortcut very easily. But there are two things that happen on that television. The Apple TV is on, or my partner's playing something on his Xbox. So for me, by turning on the Apple TV, it automatically switches the input to the Apple TV. And by him turning on the Xbox, it switches the input to the Xbox. So there's no need to have extra things. If I had multiple devices, then maybe. And then as far as audio goes, I'm using a HomePod for home theater audio out of the Apple TV, and he just uses the built-in speakers for the Xbox. I had a soundbar connected to it at one point, but it just was giving me too many problems, so I ended up kicking it to the curb because the HomePod sounds great and works just fine. Nice. Then we've got, speaking of AirPlay devices, JBL has a very pretty amplifier that has AirPlay 2 technologies. Look at that thing. Holy kabuki theater. It's
very retro, silver, hard edges, kind of old school wood type of speaker thing.
Yeah, and silver and these huge knobs.
Not speaker, but
yeah, it's just an amplifier. But you connect your speakers to it, and you can use AirPlay 2 to stream to those speakers via this amplifier. It's very pretty, and I don't even have speakers that I could connect to it, but I want one. $3,000 though.
I was going to say it's out of my price range. But I love the concept just because it is AirPlay 2, and so you could play your music to this. You could send it to this, and it would play out of higher quality speakers. So I'm curious to see if this is like a further digging in of AirPlay to higher quality audio. It's kind of like, on some level, it feels like it doesn't make sense because the quality of the sound coming from AirPlay isn't going to be like audiophile level or whatever. But
well, I think it is because it uses Wi-Fi instead of Bluetooth, so it's a pretty heavy packet.
I guess
to stream with.
AirPlay. I guess I'm thinking of Apple Music itself versus if you have a other source on your phone, you could stream it. That's a good point. So that makes sense. But it's still like kind of for a person like that, it can have all of the speaker inputs too. And something that I recently realized is I have powered headphones, and I can't remember if it's these ones or I bought a similar pair, but I'm pretty sure my headphones aren't powered enough to hear the full quality of the audio that it could provide. And so like,
right. Cause you need an amplifier to do that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Or I have one, but it's just not that powerful. I didn't even realize it. So
wow. So you've been missing out. Your magic ears have been missing out on the full richness of the sounds of the chapped lips barely glancing upon one another as the musician sings their song.
Jesus,
audiophiles, I tell you. I
will say, I mean, I guess I don't remember if you shared your impressions of the AirPods. I guess Rose had them, but
yes, I've never had them, listened to them, heard them. I've glanced at them. That's it.
I started a return for them tomorrow because that's the extended holiday period. I wanted to try them, and I think they're very cool. I think one of my like lines that I have for my review that I want to do is like, it's really easy for me to not spend $500. So you have to convince me to get that, to go beyond in order to buy something like this. But
yeah,
and I can tell that I'm going to miss them when they're gone. Even just because of the noise cancellation is better than the AirPods Pro, and it's pretty much silent.
Like in a whole new world, and everything else was closed off from you.
Yeah, which it was.
See, that could actually do it for me, honestly. That if it truly felt like you're just in your own little universe, that could actually do it for me. That would make me consider, oh man, maybe I'm just gonna have to get these and try. No, because if I get them and try them, then I'm not gonna want to send them back, and I need to send them back.
Yeah, see, I feel like I went into it being like, no, I can't afford these. Right? Like, because I'm also reviewing the Macs and stuff like that. So it really was just like, I'm not going to drop $5,000 on this stuff. Like it just, or total or whatever. It just didn't make any sense. So that was like, I'm just glad I couldn't like kind of realistically buy them right now. So it has been it's not made me get too attached, but I'm glad I had them too. Cause it helped me understand the M1 Max more and like the iPad experience. So I'm looking forward to making my videos soon on that.
I'll have somebody else buy them and send them to me. And then I would have to send them back because I couldn't do that to somebody else. That's what I'm going to do.
Leo, does he have them? I was going to say maybe.
No, Leo hasn't been convinced that he needs them either. I mean, he's got, headphones that probably cost so much money. I mean, he said that. That's not me just going, he probably has his. No, like he has very expensive headphones. And so for him, he doesn't really see a reason for this. And Christina Warren, noted tech reviewer, she said that she didn't notice much of a difference between the headphones that I'm wearing right now in terms of audio quality, not the noise cancellation, but audio quality, and the AirPods Max. But so anxiety and pretty much anxiety is something that we probably all deal with, but is something that I definitely deal with. And one of my ways of kind of bringing that down a little bit is to listen to an audiobook with some form of noise cancellation headphones on or earphones in. And so if there's a pair of headphones, because I don't like Sony's noise cancellation. I don't think it's very good. And I do like the AirPods Pro noise cancellation. I think it is quite good. And I like Bose's noise cancellation as well. I think it is good. And so if there was something that was even better noise cancellation than those devices, that could be the thing that does it. I don't know.
I haven't tried them, but I do think like the transparency stuff on top for me, the Siri type of shortcut thing, connecting to all my devices is really nice. The spatial audio stuff also, I had mono audio on and I didn't know. And so I was so confused the first 3 weeks because I was like turning my head and I was like, yeah, I totally hear it, but not like what? And then it was not doing the effects. And then I turned it on in the middle of watching Lord of the Rings. And there was like the scene where the cave troll comes in and is like throwing them around. And I was like, this is so like, it is a home theater system on your face. And like with the iPad, I was like, this is like the ultimate personal movie viewing experience kind of thing. So
okay,
it's still though it's like it's $500, so it is. You're just like it's pretty easy to just be like, no, like I can't. It's not like AirPods Pro where we're in the range of like this is a bad decision, but I'm not gonna like break the bank. And Yeah.
Well, all right.
I'm not making it easy on you.
I'm not going to do it. Let's talk about Satechi, which has launched very pretty, I would argue, keyboards. There are 4 of them, USB-C keyboards. There's the Slim X1 Bluetooth keyboard, the Slim X1 wired keyboard, the Slim X3 Bluetooth keyboard, and I bet you can guess the last one. Yes, it's the Slim X3 wired keyboard. These are compact models in one case, meaning they don't have the keypad, and then in the other case they do have keypads, and they're backlit. They're very pretty, and they feature, they are built for a Mac, or in one case, an iPad for sure, and an iPad stand that is quite interesting. What do you think about that one?
I'm curious. The iPad stands are kind of like, I really need to try them, and they of course are showing a person with it up, holding her pencil up and drawing on it, and like, you shouldn't do that for ergonomic reasons. That's like specifically how I hurt my wrists. So I don't think it makes sense in that situation. Those are always model photos, I'd say. But I'll always love a good iPad stand. I think having the like thin or the centered base is always important. And these are relatively affordable. I think that's a good thing with Satechi stuff. Satechi?
Satechi,
probably tech. That makes more sense. Is it's just not going to break the bank. Like those are $45 and the keyboards are starting at 60. And so that's just a nice kind of alternate Apple style thing, but maybe not as pricey and can kind of work across multiple devices. Like that's a big thing. It looks like it has 4 actually, that's very interesting because I don't think I've ever seen one with it more than 3. And I have, maybe that's a Matthew problem, but I have 2 iPads and 2 computers. And so I always do want to switch it, or you can put your phone on or something too. So this is cool. I like this brand. I've got a couple other things, and my USB hub that I'm using right now is Satechi.
Yes, Satechi.
Satechi, I think is what it is.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll go with that.
Yes. It's actually pronounced Hachu. I have the 3-in-1 charger stand from them that has a spot for your iPhone, a spot for AirPods charging case, and a spot for the Apple Watch. And it's beautiful and it works incredibly well. It does what I would want it to do and does it without complaint. So I'm very happy with it. And I think that these devices are also very cool. That iPad stand would be perfect for iOS Today, doing app reviews and talking about apps while I'm doing the show. I think there are some specific instances, and the using it as a monitor with a keyboard, I think is quite clever. But I agree with you in terms of as far as using it with a pencil. That's a lot of strain on your wrists, so that could be bad. Especially look how dipped in the person's arm is pressed up against that corner.
Oh man, I just feel that pain.
Compressing those tendons, that's bad. We will have more news from Amazon next. All right, what is first from Amazon?
The Verge has a review. This was put out just before Christmas, but on the Echo frames, which is Amazon's 249 plastic lens glasses that you can get with prescription, but are ALEXA on your face. And so they've been giving it it's definitely interesting to see because they're like, these are a pretty solid product, but then what do you end up doing with the device on your face kind of situation? And it's also battery life thing on your own glasses is always a kind of an interesting challenge there. But I think it's cool to see this keep going because these are alive and well, or alive and kicking a little bit, maybe. I don't know about well, but it's interesting to see this type of product get further and further into development and into people's hands.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's just these are so expensive. It's frustrating.
I think they're the first ones that just look like glasses, and so you wouldn't immediately notice. But I think a big thing is going to just have to get them a little. I don't know. It's like you got to be slimmer, but also the battery life is the main problem. So sometimes this does feel like the product in search of a solution sort of scenario. And even like with AR type stuff getting bigger, you feel like it would. Maybe this is Amazon's way to figure out the hardware and the technical side before they put in something like that. So I'm not sure. I personally just, it's kind of, these are cool, but it doesn't seem that interesting because it is kind of like just smart home for smart home's sake sort of situation. And even then it's Amazon trying to get out of the home kind of, but
out of the home and onto your face.
Yeah, I just don't see it. It's just not super compelling. It's like even just our reaction is kind of like, okay, even though it's cool, it's just like, it seems like we have other tools.
I reviewed these. I reviewed these frames, and I thought they were terrible trash things. I know that's really harsh, but they were. It was an expensive pair of the worst sounding Bluetooth headphones I've ever used. And that's my review.
Good gun.
Sorry. So let's talk about the next product.
Yeah, this is the big one.
This is really cool, and this is finally time for Amazon to move into the market that it's been working on for a while. Well, sort of. Because Alexa and Amazon and the Echo have all kind of been working together to create a new communications network called Amazon Sidewalk. And one of the devices that people love to talk about as an Amazon Sidewalk product is a mailbox sensor, meaning that you get a notification when your mail has arrived. And in years past, you always had to have, or in many cases had to have like a sensor with a SIM card installed, so that it could properly communicate that far away from your home that the mail had arrived. But this does not need that, and instead has an antenna on the back of it that you put on the back of the mailbox to properly communicate with Alexa. And the idea there is that typically, or in many cases, mailboxes are made of metal. And so you've basically put your device inside of a Faraday cage. It's very hard for it to let you know that the mail has arrived. I do have a concern that the mail person would then think that they are having like a photo taken of them or something. So maybe you want to tell your mail person, hey, I'm putting a motion sensor inside my mailbox. I promise I'm not taking weird photos of you as you're giving me my mail.
I feel like, I guess I'm most surprised that this Verge article doesn't even mention the sidewalk thing. Like Verge has a nice section in there where they say like, here are the privacy policy things that you agree to, but I really feel like this is like the first product for Amazon Sidewalk that makes sense, and I was sort of surprised that they didn't address that. Just so you know, this works because Amazon has created like a giant network. I don't know. I still feel like this is like surveillance for or like you're implementing a surveillance device in order to get like a minor convenience. I think this is when we first heard about Sidewalk. I was like, okay, that sounds really great for Amazon and kind of great for people and terrible for society as a whole, just to implement this kind of thing while also just not getting a lot of benefit. Like if it made everything better, it maybe would make a difference, but I'm still just surprised that some of the largest tech publications don't even cover the privacy implications of this kind of thing and enabling this network and the larger story around that. Like they've talked about Sidewalk there, but I am just surprised that this is like the product for that, and it's not even in the article at all.
Yeah, I wonder if it's because starting off, this is less Sidewalk and more Ring's own implementation of the technology, and that as Ring continues to be brought under the Amazon, umbrella, we will see more of that conversation taking place.
Isn't that Amazon's strategy though? Is to just get us to buy all the stuff and stick it in our home and then change it afterwards? Because that's definitely what's happened with Echoes so far and everything. So I think that's just why it sketches me out. Is like, I think if you buy this product, you should know what network you're signing up for, what implications that has for like larger society as a whole. And for me, as somebody buying smart home products, those are deal breakers to factor into my decision making process. If I have to decide whether or not the people who make this are like terrible and this could bring upon the downfall of society. I don't know. Maybe this stuff has been on my mind lately for some reason of not taking responsibility for your platforms and things like that. So I don't think that we should just be buying Amazon Sidewalk products and then later talking about the implications of it. It's got to be in the sales pitch that people are, not that it's a sales pitch, but it's just like, this is super important stuff. And to just, for like the major tech company or publications to gloss over that is a problem, because we need to have greater awareness and discussions around this at the time of purchase.
I think that's very well said. Sincerely, I do. And then we've got GE, GE had this smart home brand called C by GE, and that kind of had to change because, well, C by GE, first of all, is just a strange name. And we're kind of all like, what's the C stand for? What does C mean?
It stands for sync, spelled wrong.
Sync, but not the right sync. So now they have a company called Sync, CYNC, and have announced an indoor camera. And the Sync indoor camera is, they're sort of positioning their product, or it is sort of positioning its product. First of all, it's literally positioning it on a granny wall. But
yeah, that's the wall that I have. Walls like that.
It's positioning and who is your house owned by? Is it a granny?
Basically.
Yeah. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, this is a product that they're trying to say like, hey, go with us because your privacy is respected more than if you go with another company. But this makes me hesitate in the opposite way, because there are companies who lead with technology and therefore have a better grasp and handle on and understanding of technology, and therefore have more protections in place. This is like your local DMV giving the local DMV a bunch of your information, and then hackers going after the local DMV because everybody's password there is kittycat357 and being able to get all of our information, versus hackers trying to go after Amazon, which is already the backbone of the internet in many ways with AWS, who knows their stuff. Where, yes, I don't like that Amazon has a lot of my information, but do I want Amazon to have that information if it's going to have it, or this household product making company that is doing this? So I don't think that I feel better with Sync, I mean, see, wow, it's already confusing. Having or gathering my information than I do another company doing that. Does that make sense? Does that make Sync?
I don't totally know though. I mean, GE seems a little more harmless than Amazon. Like, I don't know. I think, I mean, a lot of it seems like they're going for the physical privacy too, of there's a cover for the lens and muting audio and recording locally type of thing. like I think I agree with you in general. I'm not sure specifically GE. I guess I've not really thought about that part too much, but to me this seems just more like these are appliances and GE makes appliances, and it seems like it shouldn't go further than that you don't have to opt into a society-wide sidewalk network just to use a light. It's just kind of like
yes,
local
but if
stuff.
well, okay, if it all is going to stay local, then I'm with that. But I need to know that that's 100% the truth, because if I suddenly have to, subscribe to some service that's storing my videos online so that I can replay them, and has my address information because it needs that to properly turn on and off the camera when I'm home or I'm away, and sends that over the server, I'd rather have Amazon knowing where I live than GE knowing where I live, because GE storing that information may be easier to crack than Amazon is to crack. That's my point. That's my concern. So if GE says, not only are we a company that is not interested in collecting your data, but we make these devices that, like Apple, it's all happening local area network.
I mean,
I'm sold. I'm on board.
I do think Apple knows more about how their devices are used than it seems like based on that privacy stuff. That's definitely something that I try to think about, is it's like they don't share it with people, but that doesn't mean they don't have any. They use it only for the specific purpose that you give permission to, and it's not like shared across company even for marketing purposes. That's why I get ads telling me to buy the HomePod even though I already have it, which just feels dumb, but it is like they don't actually share that data. But I guess I'm just curious, is GE demonstrated that they're careless with this type of stuff? Because Amazon also, I feel like that just applies to every smart home company then. Or maybe it's just because I was going to say they're just probably inefficient. Like they probably track it all, dump it as some spreadsheet, and then it doesn't do anything or something. Like, I guess maybe they're got to give them more credit, but not a lot of companies are great at using big data in a way that actually benefits them, and are just being creepy for the sake of like potential value of that data. And Amazon is turning around and I don't know, like manipulating us further or something.
But it's the difference between a bank vault with 3 German Shepherds and 2
like what about
Zena warrior princesses outside. That's Amazon. Versus my data being stored in a pig pen with a broken lock on the gate. And where would I rather have my data? I want it behind 2 Zena warrior princesses stored safely. And inside, Zena uses that data to market more to me. But at least the 95, I don't know who Zena's evil, fight against person. I don't know who the villain is in that story, but 95 bad guys are outside trying to get in and they can't. But then 95 bad guys walk over to the pig pen with the broken lock and they just pick up my data and they walk away with it. That's what I'm saying. I'd rather have a company that knows its security, even if Zena takes it and markets things to me. Okay, I've decided to give my data to this company, but they're the only ones using it inside, and they can't. The 95 bad guys can't get it. Than for the pigs inside of the pig pen to be using my data, but then also to let in the 95 bad guys outside of the pig pen as well. Yeah. And that's the difference between those two to me. I'm not saying that GE has proven to be a pig pen with no security. I'm saying that Amazon has built up its security over time. It has proven itself time and time again to be a good security. It's hired Zena warrior princesses, and it's shown that because like it is literally one of the backbones of the internet, they know more what they're doing in terms of securing my data than a company who in the past sold refrigerators and light bulbs and is just now getting into the game.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely why like the Amazon stuff is so like not like controversial, but it's not so clear cut whether or not it's like it does provide that extra benefit. Usually, maybe I don't think the mailbox ones do as much. And yeah, I mean, it's fair. Like I could see, I just think of like Home Depot in the same way that they sell other people's smart home stuff. At least they don't make their own, but they just completely got hacked years ago, and they were like, oh, we sell hammers. Like, so it is like we sell fridges. So it's like, I think I'll keep my security somewhere else. But yeah, I mean, I think what I'm curious is if this is all no Google Assistant, nothing like that. If it's all just their own janky brand kind of to do smart home stuff, and it's fine, but it's just kind of one of the other alternatives. I still think it's kind of better than, I think GE will be around longer than some random companies like that. So maybe if you are just going for very basic smart home stuff, their kind of thing might make sense. Yeah, that's a fair.
Yeah, you don't have that joke that we made at the beginning of the show about, your subscription has expired and we're not coming back. So that's a good point.
I think also we are like right before CES season. So I saw some of like a GE alternate brands last year, and like, I think it was kind of subcontracted out, but I was like, this all seems great, but why is none of this smart? And at CES especially. And so like, I think now it's kind of like they've got to the point where they should probably do their own. Oh, I guess it does work with Alexa. Blah, 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 and Google Assistant. So that's good. They're a smart plug, at least.
Yeah. Let's talk about the next thing. This is a really interesting article from Ian Hamilton over at uploadvr.com. It's an editorial about the Oculus Quest 2, which, despite the Facebook nonsense, is a very popular VR product. And one that I forgot that I had, this is as an aside, I completely forgot that I ordered the comfort head strap with battery thingy majig in it. And there for a while, they thought they had quality issues, so they stopped sending them out while they checked in. And it turned out that it was just like a small subset of users that were actually having that issue. And so the other day, I see this like $138 charge pop up out of nowhere, and I'm like, who has stolen my card? And then I realized that no, I am getting an Oculus Quest 2 head strap dealy bob. So I think I'm looking forward to getting that. I think that it'll improve the experience. But this Upload VR article, you want to talk a little bit about it and why VR is here to stay?
Yeah. Ooh. I mean, it's an editorial piece. So I think this is, I follow a good amount of VR people on Twitter just because I think I got interested in it, and Twitter constantly recommends more people when you follow someone. And usually in like niches like that, it's actually really good because it's just like, oh, these are fascinating people who work at Oculus Reality Labs or whatever and are doing cool stuff. So I think there's a lot of wanting to say that VR is here so that it's now true because everybody's been saying that for many years and it hasn't normally been true. But I do think the Oculus Quest 2 has sold in fairly good numbers in ways that people don't necessarily realize. And I even have a like kind of an aside that I heard a conversation from someone who worked with Oculus last year doing like a video to try to promote it, and they were curious about doing another one this year and how the creator had data on how many he helped them sell last year. And this year, he basically was going back to them and saying, well, they were trying to pay him less. And he was like, I helped you sell like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of this product. And they're trying to give him like a little bit. But they basically said no to him because they didn't care about sales. They cared about views, and they cared about it being popular. And so I think this is kind of it's like an interesting context to the story.
What is the definition of popularity? That like, is popularity for products, not purchases?
Well, it's more like, even though you converted a lot, we want viral video. They want like 10 million views because I think it is like they want it to be popular. I think this story talks about how this person is tracking over 40 games that have made over $1 million, and there's only 220 in the store. So it's like, I think a big thing that has to happen for these types of ecosystems is, can you make money developing for it? Because if all the developers don't make any money, they're not going to keep making games and things like that. And so
I see.
I think this fall, lots of people have bought them.
I get it.
But it's not like going viral that people aren't making YouTube videos about it for sure. Because I've had one and was kind of watching that space.
Well, it's not easy.
But a lot of people are using them too. And so it's kind of fascinating. It's like the developers are making money, people are buying them, but nobody's talking about it. And so Facebook is like upset because they want it to be like VR is here and it's cool now. And it kind of is, but not in the like public consciousness. And so, I mean,
that's
it's
totally
still
fair too. I see that. I can agree with that you don't have people talking about it. Your average person talking about it. But yeah, when I look around, there are quite a few people using it. But I think there's some, like, it's hard to explain it. It's one of those really, it's an experiential thing where you don't really know until you've tried it. And then it's hard to show. It's hard to make, you know what I mean, the viral videos because, for one, you know, the technology that they do have requires like a green screen, which not everybody's going to have. And for me to just film my face while I'm my body while I'm playing a game and you can't see the game. Hi, Jason.
All those thumbnails of people making the VR face.
Making these videos. It's just that's tough. So I don't know. I don't know. I get it. And I understand now what you were kind of talking about where, it doesn't seem like people are talking about it. But I think that's more a side effect of the technology maybe. And it's non-shareability, like Quibi closing everything off so that you couldn't share stuff. You're not going to go viral if you don't give people ways to let it go viral.
Yeah. I mean, even the footage that you can capture is like a square or like 4:3 aspect ratio. And so in terms of making a video about it, it doesn't match the dimensions that you would think, or that you can, like, it takes out as a square from the center, but you see all this aside you. And so it's really not immersive in the same way that the actual experience is. And it's like, I can cast to a TV while you're doing it, but it's really not clear at all. And there's not very good guidelines on all of those process things. There is a huge, I think, a thing with VR where a lot of people are in VR and have been in that community for like years and have believed it this whole time while the consumer products weren't ready yet. And then so now there's like tons and tons of experts and tons of newbies, but that middle ground of just like sharing how this stuff works without assuming that you know anything doesn't happen. So maybe somebody should make a YouTube video, Matthew, me. Still though, I make shortcut stuff, so I don't know. It's still like, I think that's why it's like, I don't know. Ultimately, I think what's hard too is the games cost like $10 each. And so companies they're like making sales, but I can't just like get a bunch of games and try them out. I have to actually like be able to afford them and things that it doesn't.
It's an investment.
There's more barriers. Yeah.
I was not expecting it to be that. And you know, when you look at what all has to go into it, I understand why they cost what they do, but I certainly did have that moment of like, oh, that's kind of pricey. And I want to try multiple games, not just one. So if they had a subscription, kind of like Apple Arcade, if they had that, I would love that. Just get to try out any games you want, or, you know, maybe different packs, like the subscription, the gaming pack, or the adventure pack, or the book pack, or the movie pack, or something. That would be something that I could do and be able to try out different things, because otherwise it's just like, man, I got to drop $30 on this one game and I might not even like it. And I've only got a week to return it. And I can't, if I play more than 1 hour of it, then I can't return it. There are all these different rules and stuff that people don't know about. So, yeah. Well, next piece of news. More and more retailers are looking at augmented reality as a way to sell products. That's right. It's not just IKEA anymore that's trying to put a fake plant in your living room. It's Adidas, as an example, or I don't know, Doc Martens that wants to put shoes on your feet, and maybe some companies that want to put shirts on your torso. And so they're using this technology to sell you products. Kind of cool.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, this is neat.
Yeah.
I can't remember if the first time I saw this was at the Snapchat presentation, but especially, I mean, like trying on shoes and just being able to point your phone down and hold your foot out and see what the shoe looks like on your feet is like a pretty powerful, straightforward experience. We've seen, I mean, I think we talked on the show about Pinterest doing that on search type things. Yeah, because I had lipstick on and they can do like nail polish and those types of things. So I think this is something that we're going to see more, especially as you can't literally go into stores to try things on. And so trying things on digitally makes a lot more sense. I think it's still kind of in the early stages, but this is a cool article from the New York Times, and they've got some fancy animations and stuff to check out too. So definitely worth checking out.
Yeah. Right. Up next, it's time to talk about the project Get Warm. And that means that you are no longer freezing in your home. Tell me all about it. What's going on with you, Matthew?
Sure. I mean, in general, I've been so inspired. In case people didn't hear Rosemary's episode, the episode where Mikah was on break and Rose talked about all of her fancy automations, it's so good. Like, definitely go listen back to the last one because Rose does such awesome stuff, and I'm like getting all excited. I gotta write down like line by line, but I've got some new things that I've been doing, and another space I have a heater now, and so that's a thing that I'm exploring because I've just never thought about it. So I live in, I think it's over 100 years old, the home in Berkeley. And so we've never had proper, I don't know, the wiring is really janky. The house used to have 2 floor furnaces, which are basically large fires in your wooden floor that like, not actually, but it's pretty intense. And so one of them in the past had so I think a renter in the home put a couch over it and it like caught half the house on fire. And so once that was all damaged, like, I mean, that all got completely fixed and everything, but that furnace has just never worked. And so we've always had one floor heater in one room. It's like we do live in the Bay Area, so it's not terribly freezing, but this house is 100 years old and has single pane windows. And so we lose a good amount of heat out of that. And so my girlfriend and I have been basically in like 2 rooms total with space heaters on and like heated blankets for the last 2 months because it's been pretty cold and just not having that central heating thing has been ours like busted. I think it's always been kind of busted, but we had someone come look at it and he was like, I'm literally not even going to touch this because of the liability that it puts on me. And so it was kind of like, so thankfully we like talked it out with her family owns the place and everything. So it's like you need heat at a certain point, even though like the whole thing kind of worked and whatever, it was fine. But it was getting to the point where, I mean, I think in reflecting on last year, I had just looked up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and heat is on the very bottom level of you need food, water, heat, and sleep. And so it was like, oh, I've been operating without one of those for a good amount of time. And I feel like I don't know, it's been a little miserable, I'll say, but it's not been the worst thing in the world. But having it now, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can open my window shades because now I'm not freezing. So like, I want maybe automated smart shades or something like that would be cool. We actually have the proper wiring for a real thermostat that its temperature controls the house, and we can know what temperature it is. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And it's like the most basic thing. This is a cheapo one that just has like the automatic schedule thing. So I thought it was funny too, because it's like, oh, when you leave the house for work, you can set the temperature. And I was like, yeah, these aren't made for 2020 yet. We're not leaving it at all. But so I'm pretty sure now I'm fully wired up and I want to get a smart home thing on top. They were recommending Nest just because that's probably, I think he's just saying that as like a generic almost. But you've always said the Ecobee thing, and I'm interested. I mean, I'm assuming you're just going to be like, buy it. But I'm interested how you use
because
yours.
I never have nuanced takes.
No, I know, but just I know you've convinced me already before. So I'm just curious how much of that is like, just because I've never explored this world, how much of it is really just automatic, or how much do you have automations that control this kind of thing? And like, are there any other particular scenes or things like that where you're like, let's get extra cozy for a movie, or I don't know.
Well, so I've never set any of those up because, the sort of extra cozy things, because I like to be on the cold side of things. And so there are 3 modes. Well, there are 4 modes technically for the Ecobee thermostat: off, auto, heat, and cool. With off, obviously, the thermostat is turned off. With heat, you set the temperature that you want the HVAC to heat the space to. With cool, you obviously want the thermostat or the HVAC to cool to whatever temperature you set it to. And auto, which you set 2 points. You say, if the temperature gets above this point, then cool it down to this point. And if the temperature drops to this point, then heat it up to this point. And so you can have a range. So most of the time I have that auto turned on. I think it's don't let it get colder than 64 degrees. Don't let it get warmer than 70 degrees or something like that. And those mostly take care of what I want. I do have those levels change throughout the day because in the app you can set up schedules. And so in the morning, it's set to one thing. During sleep, it's set to another, and I think there's a third one, but I can't remember what it is. And then there's a away and home setting, so that when I'm away, go ahead and go off the schedule. Don't use the schedule and use this instead. Basically, don't freeze the pipes or the dogs. Don't worry, I keep it nice and warm for the dogs. And don't blast the AC. And so those automations, once you set them up, they're just there and done. The only time that I ever do those kinds of things would be if, my partner is saying like it's super cold, but usually we just turn on the fireplace in that case. Or for me, I just, get a blanket. I like to just stay warm. I like it to be cold in the house. And so I don't really have those in the moment types of automation set up, because also I think that runs contrary to being eco-friendly. If you pick a set of temperatures and you stick to them, and you live in a house that is fully insulated properly, then you don't have a whole lot of maintenance that's taking place during the day by the HVAC unit. It, for the most part, it should stay at those, and you don't have to make it. The system doesn't need to make too many corrections, essentially. But if your home is not as locked in tight, and you do have air and stuff coming in, then you might need to make those in the moment corrections, or you might have a person coming over who is particularly sensitive to one temperature or the other. So you might have your Auntie Linda setting, and Auntie Linda likes it nice and hot in the space. So yeah, I don't have any of those kinds of automations set up, but it's very easy to do. And as I've said before, one of my favorite things and the most important aspect of the Ecobee thermostat is not the thermostat itself. It is the sensors for the thermostat. They're these room sensors. So I'm going to do a little diagram here, because I think that sometimes people don't quite understand what I'm saying whenever I talk about this. So give me a second as I'm talking through it here. You've got your main thermostat, and it is, in my case, it is in the space between the the space between the kitchen and the dining room. And it has inside of it a thermostat, or a thermometer rather, so it can tell the temperature of the space, as well as a humidity sensor, so it can tell the humidity of the space. And then I have a remote sensor that is in my office. and a remote sensor that is in my bedroom, my master bedroom. All three of them are tracking motion, they're tracking temperature, and they're tracking humidity. So on the main thermostat, that is where you set the temperature that you want. I want it to be at, trying to get this to refocus. I want it to be at 70 degrees. And so I set on the main thermostat 70 degrees. Then what happens is it takes into account whether there's movement in that main space or in the bedroom. Well, I'm pointing at the opposite one, or in the office or in the bedroom. And the bedroom and the office are also checking the temperatures of those spaces. And so when I tell it, oh, I should also do this. Hold on. So I say I want it to be at 70 degrees, and each of these is measuring the temperature in the space. So I do need to do a temperature reading for that, for the main space as well. So in the living room, it's at 69 degrees actually. In the bedroom, it's at 67 degrees actually. And in the office, it's at 71 degrees actually. And what I tell it is that I want it to be 70 degrees in my home. So what does it do? It takes the measurement of the main thermostat, adds it to the measurement of the bedroom thermostat, adds it to the measurement of the office thermostat, and then determines the mean or the average. And then it will make an adjustment based on that. So
as genius.
The idea is that I don't want it to just be 70 degrees where the thermostat is. When I'm in my bed, I want it to be 70 degrees in that space too. And so if it's still 71 degrees in that space, it will keep running the AC even if the main one reads 69, so that the bedroom also is, so that the space as a whole on average is at 70 degrees. But then instead of just taking all three of those temperatures into account, you can also use the motion sensors in each of these. It's called Follow Me. Wow. And what it does is it says, okay, there's not been anyone in the office all day, so I just kick that 71 degrees out of the measurement, and I just take the mean of the main space in the bedroom, because those are the two spaces where there are people, and so that's what you're trying to change the temperature of. That is incredible, smart, and amazing, and that is what sells you, or should sell you, on the Ecobee thermostat more than anything else.
Yeah, you sold me. That's why I was like, I knew that you would sell me on it. I wasn't suggesting you wouldn't have a good take on it. It was like, I know if you are already convinced, that's totally the one. And that is like, that seems so obvious, but also perfect. And that's exactly what I thought when they set it up, is that it's hot in the room that we spend the most time in, but I'm right now in my office and it is like a little colder, or we don't actually have heating upstairs. So that'll be a whole, like, will it just blast anyone who's in that room? Or I don't think it can adjust to where the other vents are or anything like that. But it's pretty interesting. Like,
if you have a more complex system with multiple blowers and things like that, then it could. But most homes don't have that kind of technology built into them. So, but yeah, as far as determining the average and using the movement of the different spaces is incredible. And then each of those devices can also be added to your HomeKit setup. So I can use the temperatures and the motion and the humidities of these different spaces independently of what the Ecobee thermostat does, just as automation triggers. So if the office hits 72 degrees, then turn on the fan in the office. If you've got that, if you've got a fan that is tied to a plug or something like that. So it's just brilliant. And I'm so glad that it exists, and that Ecobee continues to improve upon its technology. But yeah, to me, it's the only one that's worth owning. It's great.
Nice. That is cool. So that is more than just like, it's keeping it in the range, but it's doing it in a smart way, not just the temperature basic thing. Nice. That's very cool. That's awesome. I love it. Now I'm all excited. It is. I was saying to my girlfriend, we got to appreciate that. I don't know, this sounds really dark, but that something good happened, even though this is an intense week.
You do. You've got to find good
I was
stuff.
Totally like, I can wake up and I don't have to put on long socks. And I was like, that we can open the windows, or Like, we've been using less rooms in our house because that one gets so cold and it wasn't worth trying to heat it all up. And so I was like, it really had seemed harder because of this stuff. And now I'm just like trying to appreciate the basics of. I researched the articles for the story, like with my feet up in the other room that we hadn't used in 2 months. And so I was like, oh my God, this is perfect for 2021 to try to actually build new habits. And just like, especially last year, a lot of stuff was tough. And so taking care of yourself in the most basic ways has a huge difference. Like, not having that is just a default thing that you're like, oh, I'm just cold, I don't want to do that, I don't know. And so like, I'm really appreciative of that. And I'm looking forward to making it smarter and doing some fancy stuff there, because that sounds like a ton of fun too. Yeah.
Anything else?
I think I've got some other automation stuff, but I think we should save it for another one because there's tons of fun stuff.
Well, that means it's time for our picks of the week up next. All righty, let's do our picks of the week. Matthew Cassinelli, what pick have you weeked? No, wait, what week have you picked? No, what have you picked for this week?
I feel like I talked about this before, but maybe it was in my mind. But the Scenecuts app for Mac is a HomeKit menu bar scene changing service that lets you set up keyboard shortcuts for your HomeKit scenes. So this is great because I'm not sure what changed that made this possible, but I remember just getting my Eve Home app and things like that. So it's cooler to see more innovation on the Mac with HomeKit stuff. But this is just perfect. It's like you can set up any of your HomeKit scenes and then set a global shortcut or like a little icon for it and things like that too. Grab it from the menu bar or just activate it from anywhere. And so I can totally see using this for like my podcast scenes and video recording things and stuff that I do in my office, because that's mostly where I use my Mac. But this is just like a great, convenient utility thing. I feel like, I don't know, I want to pitch it more, but it is just like so simple. It's like, yeah, it's great. You should get it if you have Mac and you have HomeKit stuff. It's free.
I saw you tweet about it. I got it and I like it. I use it.
Nice.
Because basically I would always go, for some reason in my head, I don't know why, because I use Spotlight Search for everything on my Mac. But for some reason, when I go to mess with the Home app, I've got it in my launch bar and I click on it instead of doing a search for it, instead of using Spotlight. I don't know why, but for some reason that muscle memory is not there. And so then I end up taking more than half a second to launch the app, and then the app loads, and then once it's finally done loading, then I can, make adjustments. But now, just in my menu bar, at any time I can click and turn on or off the scene that I use whenever I record record shows in general. And so, yeah, it's really nice to have that that option there. I'm seeing if I can make it.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Especially like the Home app is. The iPad app on the Mac, so it's a bunch of big chunky tiles and you have to click in between rooms. And I mean, this doesn't have any specific device control, it is just for scenes, but that's still fine with me. Like I got I have like 50 in here maybe, or like 40, so I got a couple too many scenes. I think that's something that I like overdid it at one point and then I forgot what most of them did, but I'm pretty sure I used like 4 of them. But I'll put that on my 2021 list.
Yeah, I've got 12 scenes, which are like that seems like too many even. That seems like too many.
It's not like me to go overboard with technology stuff though, like my 13 shortcuts home screens or anything like that.
Yeah, what do you got? 2 shortcuts you use every once in a year? All right, my pick of the week is an app that I just had to talk about because I use it on my Mac and on my iOS and iPad devices. I don't know if it's on Android, but it is one that I use so regularly, and it's automation adjacent, so that's why I'm bringing it up. For the longest time, I've been looking for the perfect app for me to save my place when I'm doing a thing. So for example, I pop open a link and then I realize I can't quite look at this link right now. I need to look at it later. People use Pocket, they use Instapaper, they use different things. I always would just send myself, I just had a text message thread with myself where I posted these things. But the problem with that is that it's not incredibly searchable. And isn't easy to sort of sort through. And so I've looked for a way to have a tool that would do this for me in a good way, a sort of digital locker, much less than what I feel like Pocket and Instapaper are, is a place to store articles. It's not a place to store everything. And this app called Keep It is a place to store everything. I can just exactly what it says, write notes, keep things, and find them again. I have links. I have different yarn patterns and yarn tutorials and stitches and YouTube videos and PDFs and different apps that I might want to check out. And I mean, just so much different stuff. And it all is saved in here. And what's super cool is that it supports Markdown, so you can create lists and checklists and things like that. But it stores files. So on screen we're showing right now a bunch of images that the person has stored. These are just images that they chose to save. You can go as far as to store links that you can either have, it's just a URL to an online page that you can open in your browser, or it will save it as a weblog file, or it can save it as a PDF file so you can access it offline. It syncs with iCloud very easily, and it's storage for all kinds of stuff. And that's kind of what I need, is just a stuff storer with tags and filters that help me find what I'm looking for. And then if I want to, I can share those with people from there. And then it integrates with so many other things. And that's kind of where the automation part comes in, because from the share sheet, I have it at the top now, and I can just quickly put it and keep it. And it syncs to my Mac, it syncs to wherever. And so I'll make adjustments to PDFs, and it, syncs it then to my iOS device. So for me, this was just the app that I was looking for to be that tool that I needed to store all my stuff. And it's so much better than texting myself. And I've been able to actually, find things and then cross them off kind of afterward, actually get through them, versus where I'll lose it in my iMessage thread. The only problem is that I think it's causing me to spend more money, because I would lose those products that I was wanting to check out if I save them in iMessage. Now I'm actually being able to come across them again. And so that's a problem for me, but I guess not for the economy. But yeah, keep it. It's fantastic. And it's certainly something I'll be keeping around.
Better keep it. They've got good shortcut support too, which is cool. So I like that, because I'm pretty sure you can get every single thing and act on it and do something with it through shortcuts, which is, for something like that, in order for it to work for somebody like me, needs that, especially because I tend to use these services by immediately bringing in like 1,000 articles from Pocket or something like that. And then it's already a giant mess and I have to organize it all. And so being able to automate some of those things can make that really cool. I'm interested because I have the same problem. I just moved away from Pocket because I just did never read anything that was in there.
Exactly. There's something about Pocket, they have a whole, for me.
Yeah. They have it's like just an endless one. They have all this tagging stuff, but it just puts it back into the same list, and then their tags are buried. And so Instapaper at least moves things into separate folders, and you can go just straight into the folder, which is good. But it doesn't keep that organization in the archive, and so that's always been a downside for me. I might use this. I'm tempted. It's one of those things though that like I said, I could easily create like 3 weeks of work for myself just by using it too much right at the beginning. But it has been around for a while, so it's probably worth checking out.
Yeah.
It does have a subscription service, it looks like, but
yeah, so it's $20 a year, which was well worth it for something that I'm actually using and enjoying. I think it has a what's the word I'm looking for? It has a trial or whatever, but it's integrated. The developer, it seems, I feel, uses as much of the built-in technologies that Apple offers. There's every one of those every once in a while you have a developer who tries to make their app as built-in and integrated as possible with the different stuff that Apple provides. So it even has like iCloud sharing links where you can add a person to this specific document, and the share sheet, it has everything there. And then I just noticed today that there on the Mac, if you choose to the services menu for this app is filled with different options, and so it's, as I said, just very much tied in.
Yeah.
Yes. So very cool. All the stuff that it can do, and yeah, it's been my app. I've been talking about it for a while because I think it's great.
Nice. That's cool. I like that. Yeah. I mean, that was a huge reason I have like a beef with Pocket, because they told me when the iPad like first came out and we got multitasking, they were like, we don't see enough demand for people to add this. And I was like, you have to add it before they know it exists. Like, that doesn't make sense. That's not how product development works when new features come out for developers. Like, they made an iOS 14 widget that doesn't show you your own articles. It shows you random articles that are popular in Pocket. And so it's just completely useless. It's like they have all of these growth priorities that really put the user experience at the very bottom. And that's really frustrating. Like, I purely used it because it saves the tweets that you save a link from. And that was like in my brain, that's really valuable because I always want to give somebody credit for where I found it. But the problem is, if I just store links for a year and never actually do anything with them, there's no credit to give because I never publish it. So it's like, it didn't actually end up working out. So this is totally a realm that, like, I actually really do need to solve this kind of thing for this show and for a lot of my other work. So I'll probably be giving Keep It another try. So thank you.
Yeah. Folks, we have reached the end of another episode of Smart Tech Today. If you have a question, a thought, a concern, you can email us, stt@twit.tv. And of course, you can check out the show live at our new time, which I need to update in the document. We now record the show at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, which is 1:30 p.m. Pacific. And that's 21:30 UTC every Thursday. So check us out then to tune in live, twit.tv/live. But the best way to get the show is on demand when you are ready for it and when we have it available to you. And you do that by going to twit.tv/STT, where you can subscribe to the show in audio and video formats across all sorts of different services: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, etc. And we do appreciate you for tuning in. And by the way, it would be awesome. You have no idea. Maybe you do have an idea because other podcasters have said this. How incredibly important it is and how awesome it is for you to take a moment and rate the show. Head to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all the places where you can drop some stars or write a message. If you wanted to give us hosts a gift for the 2021 year, the start of the new year, it would be leaving us a review in one of those places. It's very helpful, and we would appreciate that. Of course, you can follow Matthew Cassinelli online by going where, Matthew?
At Matt Cassinelli on Twitter, and then on my website, I've got my catalog and membership. And we do have up on the screen right now, too, I have a Shortcuts user group community that I started in Slack. So people can go to my website and then get the link there to join the Slack and talk all about Shortcuts stuff directly, which is lots of fun. What about you?
Beautiful. I am at Mikah Sargent on pretty much all of the social media networks, or you can head to chihuahua.coffee. That's CHIHUAHUA.coffee, where I've got links to the different places I exist online. And folks, I do want to tell you that I just checked the calendar and it is January. And you know what that means? That means it's time for the TWiT Audience Survey. This is our annual survey that helps us understand our audience, understand all of you out there, so that we can make your listening experience even better. especially for this show, because there are a lot of new listeners and subscribers that check out this show. You know, folks that Matthew's brought in, folks that I've brought in, and those of you who are interested in smart tech, which is not something that we've covered so focused on the network before. So if you're out there and you haven't done it yet, you head to twit.tv/survey21, survey21 to take it. It's completely anonymous. It's only going to take you about 5 minutes at the most. You don't even have to answer all the questions if you don't want to. But along with those reviews we mentioned, this is another fantastic way to help us out. It just helps us know who's out there listening, who's out there downloading these episodes and checking out the show every week or, you know, from time to time. So please head there, twit.tv/survey21 for this year. All righty, folks, it's time to say good afternoon still to all of your smart assistants.
Have a good Thursday.
Yes. Oh, there she is, Warrior Princess, protecting all of my data.